The women's basketball team started off the season hot by starting undefeated. Johnie Freiwald now joins me to tell me if they can keep the good vibe going.
The Point Park women's basketball team faced two opponents this week. The Pioneers are finding their playing niche in the third week of the season. Freshman center Samantha Weir was named KIAC's Women's Basketball Player of the Week after being the top scorer in both of last week's games. She scored a total of 13 points on Friday against PSU Greater Allegheny and led the team in rebounds. Though Weir scored the most points, the win was a group effort, with 14 of the 15 dress players scoring. At the end of the first half, the Pioneers had a 9-point lead. The girls finished the game with a score of 73-52. The following day, the Pioneers took on Damon College. Again, Weir was the top scorer with a total of 21 points and 20 rebounds. Other score leaders include freshman Carly Force with 10 points and junior Kayla Carew with 7 points. The girls held a strong lead for the entire game with a difference of 20 points around halftime. The final score was Point Park University 77-62. Currently, the Pioneers just finished up taking on PSU Fayette and finished the game with a score of 92-66. This week's games are both home.
Now, Johnny, look at it here. The team started off the season 5-0. Now they won tonight, and they move up to 6-0 on the season. How big is it for this team to start off undefeated this many games into a new season?
It's huge. With all the confidence in the world, 6 wins in a row, no losses. It's a great beginning to a season.
And you mentioned players finding their niche. Samantha Weir really finding it this past weekend. We saw it. She had 20 rebounds and 20 points. What a big double-double that is. And she's only a freshman on this roster.
Yeah, she's only a freshman. You've got to see the confidence in this player. She's scored more points than any other player this entire season.
And then how big is it that a freshman such as Samantha Weir and Carly Force both step in when you lose seniors Katrisa Savitsky and junior Janine McFadder both to injury so early on in the year?
It lets you know that, the season is not over just because your returners are out of the game. Hopefully that they'll keep on playing, and the sooner that the returners come back, the better. But it just shows that for the next 4 years, this team's going to be a good one.
All right, thanks, Johnny. The men's basketball team had a rough start to the season, but they've seemed to turn things around a little bit here in the past few weeks. Phil Navatsyk is here to join me to tell me if they could really keep their hot streak going as well.
The Point Park men's basketball team picked up right where they left off last week, on the winning track, Chris. After losing their first 2 games of the season, the Pioneers won their final 2 games in Columbus and then got ready for their first KIAC game against IU Kokomo. It was the first conference game for both teams, and the Pioneers managed to win this one 69-65. Gabe McNeil led Point Park with 25 points and 13 boards. IU Kokomo did a good job of slowing the game down and controlling the pace, but this victory spoke volumes for this year's Pioneers team. Last season, there was no way we would see Point Park win this type of slow-it-down, grind-it-out game. It had to be encouraging for Coach Rager to see his squad get the W in this kind of game. The next game saw the Pioneers going for their 4th straight victory, and it was against Penn State Beaver. It was Point Park's 6th game in the first 8 days of the season, which is especially brutal when you consider the number of injuries they have. The starting lineup really had to gut their way through this one, but the Pioneers got the win 95-89. It was a tough battle throughout the game, but in the end, Point Park had just enough in the tank to beat Penn State Beaver. Of course, the winning streak had to come to an end at some point, Chris, and I think we all knew it was coming against West Liberty. Once again, an NCAA Division II powerhouse, West Lib dominated this game. They came into the game ranked number 2, and they played like it, racking up 141 points against the Pioneers. However, Point Park did a decent job hanging in there, at least offensively, scoring over 100 of their own points. When you consider that this team blew out Point Park 136-84, that's not too bad. The bottom line is that West Liberty is just simply too good, and the Pioneers could not keep up with them. This loss dropped Point Park to 4-3, but Chris, all things considered, they have to be pretty happy to the start of their season.
Phil, you mentioned how happy they have to be to start their season, and one of the big things has been team chemistry with these new players from transfers such as Nick Brown and Alan Heater really stepping in right off the bat. How big is that for the team chemistry to really be there only 7 games into a new season?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, Chris, this is something we've talked about a lot before, is that last season it took them more than half the year to finally start meshing together as a team and playing the type of basketball they're capable of. It seems like this season they've really come out the gate hot.
And then you mentioned they had a grinded-out win against IU Kokomo, something we really have not seen with this team. This is a team that really loves to put 100 points on the board and hadn't won a game when scoring less than 60 in the last few seasons, or excuse me, less than 70 in the last few seasons. How big is that for them to play an IU Kokomo team that really pushed them but still come out to victory and not do it in their run-and-gun fashion?
It's huge. It's really important for this team to be able to win any type of game, Chris, and defensively they really stepped up this time around. So I'd say that's probably the most important win for the Pioneers this season. We've never seen them win a game where they haven't been putting a lot of numbers up on the board.
Now, excuse me there, Phil, you see the talent that this team has around them. You see how the transfers are fitting in. You see how the people from last year are working with that transfers. And you really see a complete team out there. What do you think this team has the potential of doing this year once we get into KIAC conference play?
I honestly think they have a decent chance of going all the way in the conference this year. You know, it's going to be a big test when they finally play IU Southeast and some of the other powerhouse KIAC teams. But just the fact that they were able to win one of those defensive games, Chris, I think that really speaks volumes to how much this team has improved and how much they've refocused. Let's keep in mind that aside from that West Lib game, they've held every opponent to under 90 points this season. I mean, we could probably count on 2 hands the number of games all of last year that teams didn't put up 90 against them.
All those are very valid points there, and thank you for joining us, Phil. The team really looks to keep it going after their hot start this year. After the break, we'll have myself with your National Sports Report, and Zach Aaron then joins me with this week's Volleyball Report. You're watching the Pioneer Sideline here on UView.